Today is the 18th of Av and the 22nd of August. We're in chapter 16, of Shorosh Mitzvah Tefillah and Derech Mitzvah Secha. And what we saw yesterday is that there's two types of love. And here he said that the type of love that can be contained in the heart, that can be contained in the emotions. And by love we mean something like a connection, not necessarily, it's not at all romantic love, it's a connection with God. And the other type cannot be contained. So he said that to say a person should go beyond themselves, the way we explained it, bechol meodecha, with all of your might, with all of your more, to go beyond yourself and so on, that's very vague. It doesn't tell a person at all what this actually means. It's up for interpretation. Every person could do it any way they wanted. And worse than it's up for interpretation, which is half okay, because every person's a little bit different in terms of how they'll grasp this, there's the bigger problem, which is this lends itself to fantasies. And that's already a real issue. So now he says that really what you need to understand here is that when we said love that is mighty, that goes beyond your limits, what we mean is this type of love that cannot be contained in the emotions. And now he'll explain exactly what he means by that. So we're on page 246, something like 8 lines, 9 lines down. Yeah, Mitzuya Nefesh. Right. So that Mitzuya Nefesh is like that I go as much as I can. Right? Mitzui, to squeeze out as much as I can. So
Mitzui rather than
it's like a mitz. Mitz means means juice. It's not higher than that. Right. So I squeeze out as much as I can. But here we'll see that it's not from the inside, it's from the outside. So these are things that you can't squeeze out because they're not inside. It's the wrong image. So we also mentioned this yesterday at the end, that we have a two-stage process here of coming to love God. That you first have to, we said that because a person doesn't understand really what it means to connect to God, so the Baal Shem Tov taught that you first have to have a connection to a tzaddik. You first have to see what a tzaddik is. And if you see what a tzaddik is and you understand what it means to not be able to contain even a tzaddik, then you can begin to understand what it means that you can't contain your connection to Hashem. But in any case, that was yesterday. Let's continue today. She'avazu lo tityashev balev, 7 lines down actually. Me'otzem ha'ava rabba she'rotze lipared me'aguf. And this type of love leads a person to feel that their connection to Hashem cannot be contained in the body. It's like the body is an impediment to being able to connect this way. And it has a name in the Zohar, and the Zohar is called Lishtaba Begufa de Malka. It's called to be sucked into the body of the king. That's what the feeling is like. It's like my body is not able to contain this. So what I want to do is I want to connect back to the body of Hashem. What does it mean, the body of Hashem? It means that if there's any existence, my existence is Hashem. It's not my existence. My existence, my feeling of being alive, being here, present here, it comes from my body, not from my soul. My soul doesn't know what it means to be here and now. It has no idea what that means. It receives that from the body. This is well established. The soul by itself does not have a physical sense of time and space. It doesn't. It learns that when it comes into the body. And when it departs the body, it's finished with that limitation called time and space. It doesn't relate to it anymore. So I get it from my body, this being present here in the moment, in this place. So how can my body can't contain something infinite? So it's like, the Zohar calls it, it's like being sucked into the body of Hashem. And Hashem's body, whatever that is His presence here and now is infinite. Why is it here? Why is it infinite? Because He's not limited to the here and now. For Him, here is just part of the span of time, and the now is just a part of the span of time, and here is just a part of infinite space. There's no. People get this from time to time. It's not so crazy, but it's mostly fantasy. So Elon Musk wanting to go to Mars is a little bit of the sense of that I'm not just here, I'm also there. People enjoying watching historical movies based on something in the past or in the future is catering to our feeling that we're not just now. We're not just now, we have a bigger span. We don't know how to say it. So think about this. 200 years ago, when there were no movies, you couldn't recreate something. So people had all they had was their imagination. When you learn Torah, what do? The Torah is taking you, transporting your soul to something higher, and saying you're not just here, you're also there. You're not just now, you're also then. Torah is expanding you. So when a person feels that the here and now is not enough, it's because their connection to God is overflowing. And so the here and now can't contain them anymore. So they're looking for something greater. That something greater is like connecting to Hashem. It's like becoming sucked into the body of Hashem. Or, it's also called in the Zohar, Listakla beikara de malka, to gaze at the splendor of the king. When a person looks at a king, why are people so interested in kings or in today's celebrities? But it's the same thing. Because they give them a break from their dreary lives. They say, oh, there's somebody who's living beyond the here and now. Now, with a king, it's fake. It's not real. Why? Because he also has a here and now. It's true that his here and now is a little bit bigger than mine, maybe a lot bigger than mine. But in the end, it's just. But when it comes to Hashem, and I look at how Hashem looks at the world, so then I find my place suddenly. I suddenly see that, wait a minute, my soul is breaking out of the confines of the here and now. It's breaking out of what I feel at this present moment, in this present place. So this is called abundant love. It's love that overflows, goes beyond. The love is so strong that he wants to leave the body. Meaning, again, doesn't want to leave the body in the sense he doesn't want to be in this body. He wants to be. But he sees the confines of this body. This doesn't speak to him anymore. And he sees how great the king is. So he now introduces the most important word, and he says, Avat b'chol mo'odecha, the love that is mighty love is a love that is in what we call a makif. A makif is what we call surrounding light. And surrounding, we've always defined it as something that cannot be integrated into the person himself. It can't be contained. Surrounding light means a revelation that is too great for me to contain in myself. It'll never calmly sit in my heart. It won't. So what do I feel with this? It's a run and return with this type of love. You can't have it all the time. That's why, if you live in a movie, in Hebrew there's a saying, you're chai b'seret. I've never seen anything like that in English. You're living in a movie. They don't say that in English as an idiom. Apparently, it's more common in Israel than it is in America, even. Chai b'seret.
Some movies became reality to me, in a sense, like it happened.
You live in fantasy.
Yeah, you live in La La Land.
I'll feed you.
So a person can't live there all the time. If he does, something's broken.
Or he's very young.
Oh, okay. Maybe there's somebody who's like on his mind. But the big principle with the makif, with the surrounding light, with the surrounding revelation, is that it's run and return. You go in and out of it all the time. So you daydream, right? The pnimius is right, exactly. That it's integrated, right? It's where I am and serving Hashem from where I am, understanding the importance of where I am and the limitations of where I am, and understanding that even here I should be not even, but this was the real purpose of life. But then there's also moments of going out of life, as it were. Out of life doesn't mean to die; it means to break out of the confines of the here and now. וכמו שנדבר קצת באיגרת הקודש הפסוק אין ישראל נגאלין, in the fourth epistle in the Tanya, he explained there, בעניין פנימיות הלב, שהיא על דרך משל כמו במילה דעלמא. So he explains there what the meaning of the pnimius, the inner aspect of the heart is. What do we mean? We have a problem in Chassidus, that we only have two words to work with, two terms. Interior and exterior, pnimius and chitzonius. Now the problem is that there's not just one level of interior and exterior. There's many, many levels. Right. There's chitzonius, which is negative. There's chitzonius, which is actually positive. Like we're saying here, that it's a higher level. It's a makif. It's on the outside. So you would expect us to say that this type of love is on the outside. That's what you think, because he just said it's a makif, it's a surrounding love. But we see in the fourth epistle in the Tanya, and this is a common theme in Chassidus, that the highest type is always called the most interior. It's not called the most exterior, it's called the most interior. It's called pnimius alev, it's called the interior of the heart. And not to be mistaken for love that can be contained in the heart. Like we said before, that I'm squeezing the heart out, I'm getting something. Those are my emotions. My emotions come out. But here I'm saying that there's a point that I can't squeeze out because it's so interior that it's like actually outside. Now, again, this is a problem of nomenclature. It's not because Judaism has too many words, because it has too few words. There's very few words in Hebrew. Compared to English, which has 500,000 words, Hebrew has hardly 50,000. So when you only have 50,000, you have to work with that. So every word has to have many meanings. That's how it works. So you could say that language is rich with meaning because each word contains a lot of meanings, but it doesn't lend itself to what we would call scientific language. That's a problem. So in the fourth epistle in the Tanya, he explains that what does it mean, pnimius alev? So he says, for instance, in worldly matters, לפעמים יש עניין גדול מאוד מאוד, שכל חיות האדם תלוי ונוגע עד נקודת פנימיות הלב ועד בכלל, וגורם לו לפעמים לעשות מעשים ולדבר דיבורים שלא בדעת כלל. A person can come to a place where something is so nogea. Nogea means it is relevant to me. It touches me. It moves me. There's something in the world that is so crucial to me. It's so endeared to me that it will make me speak and do things without even meaning to. But they're right things. They're the right thing to do. Sometimes it's super strength. Sometimes it's super intelligence. Sometimes it's super speech. It's all kinds of examples of I said, I did, I lived in some way that is not my natural way of life. It's not the regular way in which I live. Why? Because this was so crucial to me. So I exerted myself way beyond my capacity, and I succeeded. So that exists in worldly matters. For instance, the classic example that's brought in Chassidus, the Rebbe loves to bring it, is why do we make certain types of arguments in court for one of the litigants? It's called a migo. So why do we make migos for him? He says because, the Rebbe explains it this way, he says, because if a person has a crucial matter at court, we assume that at some point he'll come up with this argument, even if he's not legally minded. Because when it touches you that crucially, you will get to it in the end. Just give the person enough time, he'll come to this argument. So we say that for him. The court argues it for him even if he's never heard of it. He doesn't know what this argument is. He doesn't know what it is. So that is an example of something in worldly matters that touches the person so deeply that they'll have super intelligence, as it were. וזה לעומת זה, ככה הוא ממש בעבודה שבלב, דהיינו לפי שבחינת נקודת פנימות הלב, הוא למעלה מן הדעת המתפשט ומתלבש במידות. And the same thing exists in spiritual matters. That even though the person has not learned, he's not listening to these classes. He never learned Chassidus. He doesn't know all these things. But because it's so crucial to him, this goes beyond the consciousness, the da'at, that enlivens the heart. There's many aspects of knowledge, of the sphere of da'at, of knowledge, One of them it's called Da'at Mitpashet. Da'at Mitpashet means the extended knowledge, or extended consciousness, and it comes down from the mind and enlivens the heart. It gives the emotions some kind of life force. So, okay, what kind of life force? Only what the heart can contain. It's not supposed to take you beyond. But there are higher levels of da'at in the person. There's higher levels of consciousness. And when they affect the heart, then suddenly the person is able to make a crucial argument, for instance. Or, in our case, what we're talking about is this is called the inner sanctum of the heart, the inner point of the heart, and there, that can contain, in a certain sense, it's not really containing it, but that's where this makif, this surrounding love of God appears. And it appears in the heart. We read this. ונמצא אהבה זו מבחינת מקיף ולמעלה מהגבלת המידות שבלב, דהיינו שאין כלי הלב יכול להכילו. So on the one hand, it's something that the heart cannot contain. On the other hand, it's exactly in what we call the inner sanctum of the heart. Again, for lack of good words, what we would have needed to say is something like the essential interior of the heart. Like, and we do, and the Zohar, nekudat pnimiut alev. When you say the point of the interior of the heart, what do you mean by the point? That you've gone even into something that's limitless, like a point that doesn't have any area. וזהו הנקרא אהבת בכל מאודיך ומאוד, פירוש בלי גבול, דהיינו שאין אהבה נגבלת בכלי הלב ולא שיהיה בלי גבול באמת. And this is what we meant before when we said that this type of love that we're coming to in the first parsha of Shema is called love without end, infinite love. We didn't mean it literally without end. And here we see that he has levels of infinity. He means here, it's infinite, but at a certain level. What do I mean by infinite? That it's not something that the heart can contain. That's what I meant. But it's not something that you don't feel. It is something that you feel. In fact, we even describe it as being in the interior point of the heart, the inner sanctum of the heart. So what does the person feel? He feels like he's overflowing. He feels like he is beyond himself in terms of what he understands the world. Now this is crucially what science fiction has done, what fiction has done to us. These are good things. They're just used for the wrong purpose. But to a certain extent, the moment that a person understands that there's life beyond the here and now, he can see the span of generations. He's thinking about the future of humanity. He's thinking about the history of humanity. He's not just thinking about himself right now. Those are not his thoughts. Those are positive thoughts. Because those thoughts are coming from this love which is infinite. When the person is looking beyond himself and looking at his children, that's already one stage of going beyond. But it should be so beyond that it's also the same thing. Like the Tzemach Tzedek himself said, Mochda Eretz Yisrael, make the land of Israel where you are. How can that be? I'm here, the land of Israel is there. Because I am living a love, a connection to Hashem, which is beyond time and space. And so I can't be here all the time because we said it's a run and return. It's too much for the heart to contain. But still, from time to time, at least when I'm davening, I feel that right now, where am I? I'm standing in the Holy of Holies. That's where I'm standing.